Hello again. Hopefully I can make 2 videos because, well, I forgot yesterday because I'm dumb. But today we should talk about weathering the storm. Essentially, since things since things are a bit hectic, how do we handle things? Because a lot of people want to do a lot of different things, and not all of them are good. So let's start with the basics. 1. Don't panic. Left, right shouldn't be a controversial statement. Do not panic. Focus on what you can achieve. For example, local people should be taking care of themselves and their people around them, the community. Why? Because guess what? That's something you can do. So focus locally. Secure ground where you are first. Obviously, that's different for everyone. For example, if you're a father or a mother or some other parent, logically you should focus on your kids and the rest of your family, because that's who is close to you right now. Secure them first. So calm down, focus on what you can do, and expand from there. Reach out to friends, to other family, like your extended family. I'm kind of talking crazy, but then again, it's late for me, so yeah, that's the first step, and second and third. So this is the 3 things you need to start with. Calm down, don't panic, focus locally, and expand from there. Seek to build connections. If this is you, then reach out to others. Until your network expands. Once you've secured those closest to you, say your parents, your kids, your spouse, and close friends, then you can expand outwards to friends who are a bit farther away, friends who are friends of a friend, your grandparents, and, depending on your age, potentially even grandchildren. Your spouse's family as well. See, grow what you're dealing with over time. Don't do everything immediately. That's not a good idea. Focus on what you can do simply. There's another thing to focus on, and that's do not go crazy. And I don't mean this in the sense of just panicking and going off the rails. I mean in the sense of revenge and losing a calm and focused demeanor. It's one thing to panic, that's one thing. It's another thing to go completely unhinged and off the rails and start blaming everything and everybody. If you start seeing everything through a negative lens and not a practical one, what's going to happen? Things are going to get worse. For example, there are plenty of leftists twisting themselves in knots trying to say, the shooter was right wing, they're right wing, because of their family. For reference, I am extreme in my beliefs, and my family is moderate. And that's just me. I know plenty of people who are fairly right wing, but have left wing relatives. And that's just how things are, especially when you're young. Younger people are generally more left wing than people who are older. That's just an overtime thing that is generally true. They are twisting themselves in knots, basically going crazy, trying to justify, how is this your fault, and not, how is it ours? They're not introspecting and realizing, wait, we've called these people fascists time and time and time again. Maybe, just maybe, quite a lot of this is on us. You need to have some introspection. The right has its own skeletons in its closet. Maybe not to the same extent, I'd argue, but it's got plenty of skeletons. And so it needs to restrain itself and play a calm hand. A position that is restrained and not panicked. Not only should they not panic, of course, this is the very big one once you've gone past this. Once you've secured your baseline, you need to start acting appropriately for how to handle things outside, because close community, that's nice. You're not going to be able to know everyone, so how do you handle things outside? And while this is a start, another thing is reach across the aisle. See if you can get some moderates. We must remember, society is built on relationships. You and someone else, let's say they're conservative and you're a liberal, you and their relationship is important and firmly connects society from the right and the left. If enough people do this, what ends up happening? Well, you see society connecting, reinforcing, until, well, it's strengthened. One relationship is good. Two, great. A bunch of relationships together, it forms a wall, a secure and tight bridge that maintains the stability of both sides. If the left just abandons the right, just says, no, we want nothing to do with you, where's the right going to reach out to? Sure, maybe there's a moderate or two here they can reach out to, but in all likelihoods, the extremists are who they're going to connect to. Without checks of the liberals, the right's going to turn inward towards the more insane ones. We have seen this time and time again. And the same thing's true in reverse. Let's say the liberals are abandoned by the conservatives. Who are they going to reach to? Well, socialists, communists, syndicalists. And you know what comes with this? The death of liberalism. I'm not even joking. It has been shown basically every time. Every time a social democrat or liberal government turns to the extreme left, like they always do when they fall out with the right, they get consumed. Look at Spain during a civil war period. The Popular Front basically blackmailed the liberals in charge into handing over more and more and more power until they were basically a Soviet puppet. That's not a good thing, and it's not what the left should aim for. I got plenty of problems with even the liberals, but that's not a good situation for anybody, especially because imagine over here you got a lot of anti-Semites, just blatant white supremacists, and racists. No matter what, these guys are still bad. They're not gonna suddenly be good just because, they're not the left. But these guys also are bad. And while I may disagree with the liberals here, they're less damaging than people who are socialists and people who are white supremacists. The liberals at least state what they believe, and I can trust them to some extent. I don't trust either of these people as far as I can throw them, and that ain't very far. So, in other words, we need these connections. We need to reach across the aisle and establish them to reinforce society. The populists are going to crumble. That MAGA's not extreme. One may say, oh, well, they are. I've seen their policies. It is fairly moderate. Tax cuts has been a Republican talking point for how many years? Certainly, reducing regulations is a thing they've supported for a long time, too. Like, Trump's policy is fairly moderate. The only thing he really goes off on the only thing Trump's really extreme on is the tariffs, which, fun fact, has been a Republican talking point since the 1800s. That's actually an initial Republican thing that they supported. And, along with that, you also have... I'm blanking right now. Oh, yeah. Then you have the non-intervention. See, that... not really that shocking, especially when you remember the initial formation of the Republicans, what made them who they are, was high tariffs for industry protection, non-intervention for a long time. That wasn't really a thing they liked to do until McKinley, and internal developments. They essentially copied a lot of the Whig policies, point for point. So, Trump is frankly very moderate. especially for a populist, I'm honestly surprised. But populism is not known to last in the US. Even moderate populists, like, for example, the people in charge during the Roaring Twenties, who literally just said, we'll leave the regulations as they are, we'll leave things as they are, we ain't gonna touch Jack, though they did give Indians the right to have citizenship, so I suppose something at least. Even they only lasted for a good few years. Same with the moderate progressives. They really didn't last that long. They either got radicalized, were taken over by their radical half, or just sort of faded out of relevance over time, because guess what? At a certain point, people were just tired of the constant reforms. I know this may shock you, but reformation is not a fun thing for the people who are dealing with the constant changes. Imagine going, as an American, from no income tax, federally, for decades upon decades, to all of a sudden we have an income tax and the war's kicked off, so like 10-20% of your income is gone because we need it for the war effort. People are just tired. Populism doesn't last. And so naturally, there's going to be a new government eventually. Not led by MAGA, both Trump or Vance, but led by an establishment party. How that'll look will depend. I don't know how it'll look because we haven't seen it yet. Theoretically, the old conservatives could come back. Maybe a new sort of conservative establishment forms. Maybe the liberals will somehow shock the world and actually become competent for once. We don't know. But what is known is this is far better than this. Because when the coalition that MAGA relies on collapses and a new establishment's formed, this will ensure the coalition is moderate. Because they'll reach across the aisle as a good establishment does, say, hey, let's work with you on the other side, and let's find ways to preserve the status quo, or reform it slightly, together. If they go like this, then the establishment that forms is almost certainly going to be an extreme one. We're talking literal white supremacists or literal socialists, neither of which is good. Because as extremism mounts, the last thing you need is a justification for both sides to literally view each other as Hitler and Stalin respectively. I mean, we're already halfway there, they're already saying it. But then once you lean across the aisle and establish this, what do? You focus on building your beliefs. I have seen way too many people hold utterly childish beliefs that literally do not stand up to the slightest scrutiny. See, it's easy to say something on the basis of emotion. Oh, this should be this because human rights. This should be this because I feel this. It is utterly meaningless. And I do not say that with any remorse. I do not care what your emotion says. Because if someone dies as a result of your policy, then it is worthless. All the emotion in the world, if it sounds good, but it doesn't lead to a net gain, worthless. One may flip this around and say, gun rights. One, we're dealing with natural rights in that case, in which case I can easily justify that with the simple fact that natural rights are far cheaper and easier to enforce while simultaneously providing better protection for people's rights and liberties. You can't really say the same for policy number 288, which involves regulating this or that or spending while simultaneously making sure most of that goes to lobbyists. When you build your beliefs, you need to factor in reality. There's a quote from Seward, I believe, maybe it was just from the movie Lincoln, which said along the lines of, if you're looking for an easy job, sir, with easy problems to solve, your job shouldn't have been politics. Paraphrasing to a notable extent, because it's been a few years since I've seen the movie, but that is reality. Politics is not a clean thing. My most efficient method to pay off the debt is a brutal one. That doesn't mean suddenly that it is invalid, but it does mean that it is something considered with a very, very heavy heart. Because plain and simply, I put my beliefs about emotion to the side and focused on what I could do, what I saw as best. Every policy should be considered like that, because maybe it's not as brutal as mine. Maybe it's just a minor adjustment to things like the military budget, Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, taxes, whatever. it should always be made within the mindset of it doesn't matter the emotion, what matters is outcomes. Because politics isn't about morality. There's a reason church and state are separate. Its job is management. It's a bureaucracy, whose job is expressly to manage 300 million people and the thousands upon thousands of miles of territory held by it. That is the job of the state. So when you're dealing with your beliefs, refine them under that assumption. How do I take care of 300 million people or allow them to take care of themselves? How do I manage these acres upon acres of land, both federal and private, to ensure the best outcomes? It's easy to say something on the basis of emotion. It's easy to say, well, disparate outcomes. Disparate outcomes do not matter in the slightest. There's a disparate outcome between people I've punched and people I haven't. The number's around 0 for both, but it's still not nothing. But that doesn't suddenly mean there's a problem with discrimination, other than me deciding to punch people, which I have done at least once. Mostly my brother, because he likes to fight. But, regardless, when you focus on your beliefs, you need to keep in mind, yes, there will be things that are, in your opinion, emotionally wrong. Disparate impact being one. But, when you think about your beliefs, you need to basically separate your emotions. Think about it if everything were equal. Not to do the data as expecting everything to be equal by the end, but rather, assuming everything equal, is this a neutral law? If it is, then it's a fine law, so long as it provides a net benefit. For example, if you raise taxes by 2% on all classes, in terms of income brackets, but you use that money not to, for example, increase a giant bottomless pit that is being spent to help lobbyists, rather to help deal with the debt, yeah, that's a net benefit, I'd say. And you can make arguments on what you believe is best for people. I will gladly make my own. But regardless of what they are, you need to focus on that first. Now I'm just rambling, granted I'm tired, but that is what I believe is best. So first, you have don't panic, focus on local issues, like for example your family, and then expand from there, connecting people and making friends. And then as you look outwards, don't go crazy and start blaming other sides for things. Focus on reaching across the aisle to moderates on the other side, build connections, and apologies if there was a shift, I had to sneeze. After you reach across the aisle, focus on building your beliefs, not from the perspective of, I want this emotionally, but rather, what is best overall? If you can't do that, frankly, you shouldn't be in politics, I'll be honest. You can still vote, I ain't gonna stop you. But a person who is not able to take their own, position out of politics and think about things in the long term should not be voting. If you vote on emotion, that is not helping anyone. Great, you voted against Trump because you believe he said bad things. Great, you voted against Harris because you believe she did bad things. Whatever it is, means jack all, because you're not thinking in terms of Harris's policies are A, B, and C, Trump's policies are D, E, F, these are better, or these are better. You're thinking in terms of emotion, not pragmatism. And everyone likes sausage, but no one likes to know how it's made, and never is that more true in politics. You do not get easy wins in politics. If you did, we wouldn't be in this mess. So just focus on building your beliefs reasonably. And I'll leave it at that. Have a good day.